Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He is the same in the past, he's the same right now, and he is going to be the same in the future, which is absolutely good news because in this world, things get absolutely bonkers. There are days where we wake up and we go, I thought everything was fine. Then all of a sudden I turn on the news or I scroll through Facebook and it is absolutely falling apart. And I don't understand how we have this wave of things going on. And the beauty is you begin to engage faith in the divine and begin to interact with the person, nature, and work of Jesus. You get to see that in his character, in his movement, in how he loves us, that he is the same, always a constant in an ever-changing world. And this has been so evident to me as I have gotten married and had kids, how life can change and not be the same from day to day. Now see, right out of the gate, I was very spoiled. Because, and ladies, there is no hate today. I am not trying to stereotype you. There's other people out there that have done that. My wife is not like roller coaster emotional. Like what you see is what you get. I know in the morning when I wake up, all through dating, all through our marriage, I have been amazingly blessed because you may have heard other men, not me, stereotypes out there, because I don't want to get those emails, that say that one moment a woman could be this way, another moment a woman could be that way. You never know what you're going to get. You're just supposed to guess, supposed to call it Dionne Warwick in Psychic Friends, be able to find it out because you don't know, because they didn't tell you, but you're supposed to know, and all this stuff. And that's not how my wife has been. And then I had 3 daughters. And all of a sudden, I realize they are very far from the constant that I see in Jesus, the same yesterday, today, and forever. You see, I wake up in the morning and I'm under the assumption as a father of an 8-year-old, 6-year-old, and almost 2-year-old that how I put them to bed is how they are going to be in the morning. Au contraire. I will walk up to them, and this doesn't even happen just overnight. This can happen within the context of a 5-minute conversation. I'll be talking to them, and especially our oldest daughter, who now I'm watching, she, eventually she's going to be going through some changes. And I'll have a conversation with her, and we'll begin to talk. She's like, Daddy, this happened at school, and whatever, and I'll be listening and kind of nodding to her, whatever. And then all of a sudden, she will turn on me. And I will be actively listening to her. And I'll be listening, yeah. And sure, Daddy, why are you not listening to me? And I'm like, I'll be, right over in my head, I'm like, wow, like what's happening right now? Because I am listening to you. No, you're not. You're totally not listening to me right now. I'll be like, are you the same person? Like, just like that. Just the exorcist happens, and she head spinning around, spirits are like, what happened to you? What happened to the 40 seconds ago you? I want her back right now. And all of a sudden, I have no idea from moment to moment. I will compliment them because as a dad, I want to build up their self-esteem and their self-worth and their value. I'm constantly, girls, you're beautiful. I don't do the whole you're daddy's princess thing because I don't want him to grow up one day and then meet a guy, be like, I've always been told I'm daddy's princess. And then the guy have to deal with that because then, so I try to make sure I keep it even keel, but I encourage them and whatever. And so I'll be like, you look so beautiful today. And the other day, my 6-year-old, I tell her, she comes downstairs, getting breakfast ready, you're beautiful. Me. Baby, what's wrong? I don't want to be beautiful. All right, what do you want to be? I want to be gorgeous. What? Never know. Not the same yesterday, today, and forever. Not the same this minute, this second, this millisecond. I have no idea. And not only, in parenting, but just in life, there are a lot of things that are unknown. There are a lot of things that we're not sure how they're going to change and what's going to go on. But I love the beauty that Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. But here's the thing that really, it does cause a bit of a conundrum for me. It boggles my mind that when people of faith, I want to talk specifically whether you're far from God this morning and just still in the beginnings of this journey, or maybe you're close to him. I want to talk to people who have made a commitment, just briefly, to God. It boggles me that someone says, I follow Jesus, I love him, love God, I'm doing that, I want to be in, and then completely ignore Jesus until everything hits the fan. They go like, oh, do you follow Jesus? Oh, I love Jesus, it's amazing. And then like, oh, so when's the last time like you engaged your faith when it comes to giving, when it comes to serving and giving back to others, when it comes to reading your Bible, all these things that believers would say are fairly cliche, but they're the things that strengthen you. It's like when you go to a sport and you go, well, what are the things you do to get better at the sport? Well, you train, you practice, you study, you keep at it, and you keep doing it again and again. And it might feel mundane, but it's those things that build up the strength, the endurance, the movement, so it becomes second nature. And then I meet believers who be like, oh, do you love Jesus? Oh, I do love Jesus. And I'm like, when's the last time that you engaged in your faith? Like, I went to church. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, that doesn't make you someone who engaged your faith. That's a checklist. That's a ritual, not a relationship. And so if Jesus is the same yesterday and today and forever, unlike many of the other things that we encounter in life, I wonder why it is that believers don't stick with him over the long haul and just hit him up when they need something, or just go to him when everything falls apart. And we've been in this series, In Case of Fire, and we're talking about when temptation happens, when you have a road that you could go down and all these fires start popping up and you have the opportunity to stay on track with God, or you could be like, ooh, shiny object, fire, and you go off on this way because we believe that our way is better than God's. Why? Because we don't like anybody to tell us what to do. We like to do our own thing. And so we're like, God, I know that you told me this way, but this looks awesome. And he's like, I have a better plan for you. You're like, I know, I can eventually come back, but I'm going to try this. And we fall into the temptation. And we've talked about this over the last few weeks. What does it mean to be ready with a plan? Because if you don't have a plan for when everything gets hard, when the fires of life happen, you will fall down that road and go down that thing, and it will just get worse and worse. And so what's the linchpin in all this? Dan talked about last week, and it was beautiful as we talked over in the previous weeks just about the fact that, man, we need to have a plan. And Dan, our adult ministries pastor last week, preached an awesome message of application is everything. It's one of our core values here. Now you might say, like, what does that even mean, application is everything? Well, that means that I could buy you all the workout equipment in the world. I could drive Bob Harper to your house. I could bring Jillian Michaels to your house. I could bring the whole crew of trainers and all the stuff. I can get you sweet workout gear, right? Like, I can call your job and tell them hey, they really need this. Do all these things. But if you don't decide, I want to do this, all of it is pointless. The workout, the trainers, the gear, because we have to apply what we've been given. And you can have the best laid plans in the world, and they will absolutely go to ruin if you don't actually walk down that road. Meet guys all the time. One of the things in our culture, whether you're close to God or far from God, or you're still in the beginnings of this journey, one of the biggest things that's destroying our culture is pornography. And I meet guys all the time that say it runs rampant through the American church, through people who don't go to church. I mean, and even people who don't believe in God say, it's ruining relationships, it's ruining people's lives. And they're saying, hey, this is really bad. We thought that it was okay, we'll move through this, but it's not, and it's destroying them. And I meet guys all the time, they're like, hey, I'm really wrapped up in this, I just don't know what to do. And I'm like, hey, do you have a plan? They're like, yeah, we moved our computer here, I got rid of my data plan, or I did whatever. And I was like, how's that working out for you? You said that you had a plan. And you're like, yeah, but I really haven't been following it because I found another computer that I could use, or found another place I could get a magazine, or I found another place that I could go and do this. I'm like, man, you can have all the best plans in the world, but if you don't execute it, you'll keep going down that road. And what's that linchpin as we get a plan, as we know that we have to apply it, that holds it all together? And we will know if we don't have that latch secure in our lives spiritually. It's like if you've ever watched any of the movies with David Spade and the Tommy Boy, like Black Sheep and all that stuff with Chris Farley. And in one of the movies, I forget which, because all the Chris Farley movies are basically the same. And there's one where they're driving down the road and the hood is jacked up because they filled the oil thing in and left the oil thing in there, and all of a sudden the hood flies open and they're like, shnikes, and they're flying all over the road, doing all this stuff, and they end up wrecking and everything. It's absolutely crazy scene. You would know if your hood was latched properly or not. You go down the highway, get on 64, and all of a sudden, if your hood is like, it would freak you out, right? You would know if that wasn't secure. And in the same way, there is a latch, a linchpin in the Christian faith that holds so much of what we are a part of together. And there's a book called the Book of James in the Bible. We're going to be over there. If you have a Bible, you could turn over to the Book of James. In the New Testament of the Bible, Bible's broken up into Old Testament and New Testament. It's going to be in James chapter 5. We've read through some of this book over the last few weeks. And if you don't have a Bible, we give them away for free. You could stop by the Get Connected table, pick one of those up. You could download a digital Bible if you're like, I'm not carrying around one more thing. You have your electronic leash with you, and so you could download a Bible app. Another way that you can do that is you could download the Forefront Church app. You could take notes today. You're able to connect back with us in the app with an online connection card. You can watch previous messages and things. We want to give all of that to you for free, because we believe if you're engaging your faith more than just this hour and change that we're together, we know that things will begin to change in your life for the better as you draw close to God. It's a natural reaction of what takes place. Now, it's not going to just happen like that overnight, because I'll get emails from people like, hey, I came to your church one time, and then I started reading my Bible, and I got to the end of the week, and nothing feels like it's changed. And I'm like, okay, and I'll get emails from people like 35, 45, even like 55, 60, and I'm like, hey, our faith as it grows is much more like a crock pot than it is a microwave. It's much more like a marathon than it is a sprint. And so it takes time. And my thought is you have to be able to, all the stuff that you've lived through and been a part of and seen, it takes a while to unravel and peel away the layers of that. And so I'd say stick with it. Stick with God and watch what he does. And James unpacks this linchpin beautifully in verses 13 through 16, starting here. And if you don't have a Bible, it'll be here on the screen. It says, is anyone among you in trouble? Let them pray. Is anyone happy? Let them sing songs of praise. Is any one of you sick? Let them call the elders of the church. And I just want to pause there. I've read this passage before in years past or in small groups, and they're like, is that like the older people that go to the church? And that's not what this is. This has nothing to do necessarily with age. We have leaders that are a part of this church that are like the guardrails. They're like my bosses. And they're the spiritual guardrails to make sure that we teach the Bible, that we don't take anything away from it, that we don't add anything to it. And they help guide me and the staff. And so what this is saying is like, go to the spiritual leaders of your church. It says, call the elders of the church to pray over them and anoint oil in the name of the Lord. And the prayer offered in faith will make the sick person well. The Lord will raise them up. If they have sinned, they will be forgiven. Therefore, confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. The prayer of a righteous person. And I love this because this doesn't mean that prayer is a fleeting thing that we do over a meal necessarily. It's powerful and effective. It's tapping into the beautiful power of God. It's saying, God, you can do what only you can do. And I want to be a part of that. See, but we get focused on what we're doing and we kind of have these blinders on, which derail us from the linchpin of sitting down and having time and connectivity with God. And we just get focused on what we're doing and on our job and on the things going on in this world and on our relationships. And if you have kids, with your kids, that can eat up so much of your time and all the activities and relationships and friendships and things. And we just get tunnel vision about what's happening in the now and not with the other things that God wants us to connect with outside of that. See, at Christmas time, our family got together and we were celebrating and having fun and doing our thing over at my parents' house. And it was my wife and our kids and my mom and dad. And then my brother and his wife came over and we're just laughing, doing our thing. And everybody had way too much food because that's what you do during the holidays. You're like, all of a sudden you have like an extra spot. We're just like, I'll just store stuff in there. And then everybody's sitting around like, we ate too much. And like you're eating around, we're laughing and doing our thing. And then my brother's like, hold on. And he runs out to his car and he comes back. He's like, I got this thing. How many of you guys have like seen these things or worn them or whatever? Yeah, like these are virtual reality goggles. And what you do, and they're not very expensive. If you ever want to just have a wicked awesome time, apparently I'm from Jersey. And so like, wicked awesome. And so you fold this out, you stick your smartphone, not your flip phone. If you have one of those, this will not work, okay? And so you stick your smartphone here, you close it, and there's all kinds of apps that you can use, as well as you can go on YouTube and search like whatever VR. You can find all sorts of stuff. And he's like, this is so cool, check it out. So he sticks his phone in and we immediately give it to my daughter, Chloe. And he's like, what do you want to do? She's like, I want to ride a roller coaster. And so she puts this thing on, and all of a sudden, he's like, you need to sit down because you're going to feel a little weird. And she's like, okay. And she laughs it off. And then all of a sudden, the roller coaster starts. She's like, whoa. Whoa. And we see her ducking because the bars, it was an old wooden roller coaster, and like the framing of it's close. And she's like, whoa, hey, whoa. And she's like, there's people behind me. There's whatever. And we're watching this. What she doesn't understand is this isn't real. It's virtual reality. But she is like totally immersed in this and can only see what's going on here. And then we give it to our 6-year-old Roxy. He's like, what do you want to do? And so she tells her Uncle Michael, she's like, I want to skydive. I'm like, of course she wants to skydive. And so I put it on, and she puts the things on, and then she looks down, she's like, I'm standing on the edge. And like, she's yelling at us. I'm standing on the edge. It's really far. And we're all watching her. We're like, you're not anywhere near the edge. You're not even in the air, kid. You're in my living room. But she's like, and then she's like, here we go. And she bends her knees. Like she's like jumping in, and she does it. But it didn't get super amazing until we handed it to my mom. And he's like, I got something for you, Mom. You're going to fly with the Blue Angels. And you can search for this. You can even watch it on YouTube without, and they have these 360-degree cameras where it's above, below, everything. You could see these things. And so they hooked up a 360-degree camera to the Blue stinking Angels. Like, and so they're all taken off. And she's like, looking at us, whoa. Like she's surprised, and she's like, there's a plane over there. Oh, shocker, Mom. And she like looks at her, there's a plane over there. Whoa. And she starts looking around, and then you see her. She's sitting on the couch. She turns behind her. There's a guy in the back seat. And like she's trying to let us know like all this is going. And then they take off, and she grabs the couch. Whoa. And she's shaking like she's actually taking off. And then she's like, oh, these planes are too close. And she starts like waving them away. They're like waving because they get like within inches. And then they split off and they start to do the corkscrew barrel roll. And we were always told that we weren't allowed, since the moment she's like, because we took video, because why wouldn't you? She made us promise and swear that we would never share the video, but she never made us say that we would never talk about it. And so we weren't allowed to share the video even if we wanted to, because she said some things in that corkscrew barrel roll that we can't repeat from the stage. But it was one of those moments where it's like, wow, she has no idea that little world that she's in has so much more around her because she's so focused what's happening right in front of her. And we can get like that sometimes, where we feel like all that's going on is what we can see. It's almost like we have these goggles on, and nothing else around us matters, but that's not reality. It's that connection with God that only He can provide as we get down on our knees, as we stop and take time and give Him the connection piece that only we can have with the Creator. But instead, we think we can do it on our own, and we think that we have the best view possible. There's a guy by the name of Phil Stevenson. He played for the Wichita College baseball team. And they were playing back in 1982, the Miami team, in one of the biggest games of the season. The thing that made it special about Phil Stevenson is he was the stolen base record holder for the 2 seasons leading into this one. He had already stolen in that season 86 bases in 90 attempts. The man put Rickey Henderson, who was the all-time steal record leader, to shame. His speed, his agility, and he knew he didn't care what was going on. What was happening. In college ball, he was the one to beat. And in this play that we're about to watch, Miami sets up one of the most beautiful trick plays. And you're not going to see it right away. They're going to replay it after it, how he gets tricked because he has blinders on. And, well, why don't you guys take a look?
I haven't seen a sign yet, have you?
I don't know, unless the mustache is the steal.
Might be. Ball is thrown away. Down into the... Oh, now they've cut it off, and Stevenson is going to be out. How about that for a decoy play? Fooled everybody in the ballpark, including us.
What, that is an outstanding play.
Stevenson is picked off. What about it, Herb?
All right, let me tell you about this play, guys. It was a planned play. They worked on this all day yesterday. They even had the right 2 guys come out of the dugout and pretend that they were chasing the ball. As soon as Kasperzak faked the toss to first base, those 2 guys are yelling, ball, ball, down the line. The first baseman, Lesby, is chasing, and look at Gene Stevenson's reaction. That'll tell you. Look at this. Now watch these guys come out of the dugout. This is one of the better plays you'll see. Look at that decoy. See those 2 guys? That isn't by accident. They're all looking there. And there's Rona. He gets the ball from Kasperzak, and it's an easy out.
And the throw was never even made. No, the pitcher had the ball the entire
he stepped
time.
Off the back.
The throw was never made. Never made. They had the whole, if you watch that clip back, go on YouTube and watch this. The entire Miami dugout, and all look this way. They had the Bat Girl in on it. She yanks her chair up and jumps out of the way. The only person yelling at him that it wasn't a play is the first base coach. They didn't throw the ball. There wasn't a ball, and he's yelling at him. But Stevenson is so in the zone. He is so focused. He has his blinders on. He doesn't realize that the ball was never thrown. The entire team had him fooled. And as he's running down there going, I'm going to steal another base. Why? Because I know what I'm doing. I've done this before. I don't need anyone to tell me. And as he's trotting along, thinking he has it all under, here comes that ball. Tags him right out. And the look on his face, go back on YouTube and watch and still frame. The look on his face is like, what the heck? Like it's so, like he is so overwhelmed. Like, I can't believe I was fooled. Here's the thing. Your connection with God through prayer helps anchor you in a place where when everyone else is telling you that that is what's happening, that you have God, like that first base coach yelling at you saying, this is not what's happening, this is not true. He's trying to yank off the blinders and say, focus, I have a better plan for you. I need you to listen. C.S. Lewis, a famous atheist turned theologian and following God, put it this way about prayer. He said, the moment you wake up each morning, all your wishes and hopes for the day rush at you like wild animals. And the first job each morning consists of shoving it all back in listening to that other voice. Taking that other point of view, letting that other larger, stronger, quieter life come flowing in. Love this quote, and it's not going to be on the screen, but I wrote it down. It says, he who runs from God in the morning will scarcely find him the rest of the day. And I'm not guilting you and saying that, like, if you don't wake up and spend 48 hours in prayer and, like, get down on your knees, that somehow you're going to have an awful existence with God. But what I am saying is, at what point are we saying to God that your plan, your movement, trusting you, having faith in you, connecting with you, is the thing that I cherish most? because that will set the tone not only for our day, but our existence. And instead, what are some of the things that we do instead of connecting with the one who created us, who wants to anchor us, who's yelling at the back when everybody else is saying, go this way? The things we choose are scroll through Facebook, because the first thing I need to do is find out how bitter and angry everyone else's morning is. Need more coffee. Struggle bus. All right, you're chipper. Unfollow. Love that option. Wake up in the morning, first thing we do is turn on the news. That's going to be joyful. Wake up in the morning, and then we can choose a plethora of things to do. And why is it that we run from the very life-giving thing that could bring us joy, contentment, that can bring us happiness, that can bring us guidance in a way that we desperately need it? That's why I have to remind myself of these words in the Old Testament in Proverbs. The writer shares with us, trust in the Lord with all of your heart and lean not on your own understanding. There are many days where in my life where I've really neglected that time of setting the tone with God in the morning, and then I've gotten to the evening and I remember this passage and I go, man, I wish I hadn't leaned into what I thought would be the best way. But God, I'm sorry, and I probably deserve, my own kind of defeatist attitude at times is, God, I probably deserve it because I didn't come to you in the first place. And so I didn't have a plan when those things arose, and so I just did it on my own because I had blinders on and I was running the baseline. And I was trying to play this game of life and run, but then this fire broke up and I didn't know what to do because I didn't even set a standard of trusting you. In all your ways, submit to him, and he will make your path straight. You see, those who follow God not only will have a plan with him, but will be pardoned by him. You see, we all have transgressions and sin in our lives and things that we've made a mistake and gone down a wrong path, and all of us are in need of redemption. And when we look to God for our life and follow him and trust him, we watch all the time as people come to know him and are baptized in a horse trough because it has nothing to do with what is holding the water or the place that you get baptized. It's about what God does in that movement, that he looks at you and he says, listen, you're dying to self and you're coming up a new creation and you're letting me do the work in your life, and I want to walk with you and move with you. I want my Spirit to be with you to help you when you're having those moments where you don't know what to do. I want to walk this journey out. And I want to be in conversation with my creation. See, but the problem that we find out in a recent, the most latest research from the Barna Group in 2014 told us this, that 15% of those who claim faith in God, who trust him, pray daily. 15%. That 23% pray rarely, 42% pray monthly, one time, maybe two a month. But this is the one that's so staggering for me, is that 84% of people who claim faith are intimidated to pray. I know that this is true because in our small group that meets in our house regularly, when we talk about all the things going on in each other's lives, and so we're talking about them, and so each of us are saying, I want you guys to pray for this. And so when we say, can you pray for this? What we're saying is, I believe that God can miraculously move in this. So I believe in the power of prayer. And so I think that's a great thing. I think that's an awesome thing. And then we get to the part, hey, who wants to pray? Everybody looking at their feet, or amazingly, our ceiling looks so awesome because no one makes eye contact. Everybody's like, I don't know what you just said, but man, he's got a water spot there. I'm just going to look at that for a while. Hey, like whatever. Or man, I have never liked my shoes more. And everybody does. And I'm like, why is it? And I get it because we feel prayer is intimidating. But it doesn't have to be. If it's the linchpin, if it's the thing holding all of this together, as we trust him, as we talk with him, how do we foster a movement in our lives so deeply that we're no longer intimidated by prayer? I would love that a year from now, 2 years from now, that this percentage, that 0% of people who follow God are intimidated to talk to God. How awesome would that be? What would our world look like? I think it would be vastly different than the socioeconomic and political climate that we're looking at across the world. Because Christians would be moving in ways that would be crazy. And it would be like, you're crazy. Be like, yeah, because I follow Jesus. Be like, that's insane. Be like, yeah, you should jump on board. It's absolutely insane, but it's so beautiful to watch what he does. And you see, claiming Jesus and following him makes prayer a vital part of your life. You see, being a Christian and not praying is like being in a marriage, but living and just live in silence. You see, technically, yeah, you're married, but everyone else, including you, could see that you don't really care. Because if you don't talk to your spouse, if you don't talk in that relationship, you might as well not be together. No point. But 84% of people who claim faith would say, I'm just really intimidated. And so how do we get past some of those things? Well, one, just very quickly, one of those is if you're looking at a better prayer life or more prayer life, that should not be interpreted as strictly in terms of minutes. Because I meet people and they'll be like, yeah, I need to be able to pray. I got to pray more. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, yeah, I just got to sit down. Normally I'll pray for like a minute or two. I'm going to pray for like 45 minutes. I'm like, whoa. Like, pump the brakes on this a little bit. They're like, what? Like, that's what more mean. Like, if I'm going to be strong, I just got to pray more. And I would encourage you that substance is way greater than word count. I've met people who pray an hour a day who don't listen to a thing God says. Because they're too busy doing this in prayer instead of going, God, I want to listen to you. And they do it in their lives. You have a conversation with them and they're just constantly talking. I'm around 3 little ones that do it all the time. I'm like, yo, like, stop. They have to say more words on the way to school than I use all week. And I wonder if in our prayer life we go like, man, I don't remember the last time that I just shut up. Because I was busy asking God for things instead of listening, going, God, what are you telling me? And so I would say that substance of what you pray, and I'm not talking about big words. God isn't impressed with your crazy vocabulary. What he does want is for you to be transparent. Another piece of this is positioning. You see, what prayer does is prayer is not about you or I getting things. It's about you and I getting close to God. And what I put there is intimacy with the divine. That we would have a friendship. It's like, again, going back to that marriage relationship or going back to a parent-child relationship or a dating relationship. As we look at this, the way that those are fostered well is when 2 entities talk and listen. That as one person talks, the other person takes in. When one person talks, the other takes it in. It doesn't just listen while they're formulating what to say. Yeah, God, I'm listening to you, but what I really need is, and you go on and on and on, and God's up there going, I love you, and I don't think he would maybe use the term shut up, but you go, man, if you could stop talking, I would really love to say something to you. Be like, I can't hear from God because you won't be quiet. Sometimes if we would stop and put this, that it's not about things, but getting close, we would listen more. Part of that is also to get to that posture is to be able to get into neutral. If we talk about like with shifting gears, that it reminds you and I who is in charge, and this is a total newsflash for some of us, it's not you. Like, and you're like, what do you mean I'm not in charge? Like, my name's on my bank account, it's on my lease, it's on my cell phone bill, it's on whatever, it's on all this stuff. I'm pretty sure I'm in charge. That's a fallacy. You and I are not in charge of this existence. And the way that I can describe that very succinctly is most of the time when we go down our road thinking that we are the ones making the decisions, it doesn't usually end well for us. And then we go, man, I just don't understand why it didn't end well. It's because if we're not connecting with God and having that linchpin of prayer in the conversation, we're going to run down the baseline not hearing God coaching and encouraging, moving us along, going, hey, the play didn't even happen. What are you doing? I'm doing my own thing. And we just run, and God's going, hey, I have something for you. I just need you to listen. See, because before those fires ever come, prayer prepares you before the fires come. I meet people whose prayer life get wicked awesome when they're in the middle of the fire. They're like, oh my gosh, God, this is hard and it's difficult. And I'm not patronizing you, but here's the deal. I wonder if God is much like how I am with my daughters when they want something. When I walk into a room and they're playing, I'm like, hey, can Daddy play with you? They're like, no. And I'm like, don't worry, I only was part of the reason you're freaking here. Like, and I'll go off. But the moment they need something, they're like, Daddy, hey, can we get money because we hear the ice cream man and we just want money? And I'm like, what happened to hanging out with Daddy before? Well, and whatever. And so when we hit the fires of life and we drop to our knees, we're like, God, I need you. And I don't think God is like, hurt by that, but I think part of it is, I wonder if his reaction, and it would be justified, would be like, where were you when things were going well and talking with me then? Now, I love that God is not like that. God isn't bitter and he isn't that bitter ex who all of a sudden you're in a relationship like, well, you ain't talked to me before. Whatever. God's going like, all right, let me listen now, and I want to help foster that so you'll listen later. And my prayer is that for you and I, that we will embrace that those who follow God will not only have a plan with him, but will be pardoned by him. And we'll do that by fostering a relationship and prayer with him, that daily we're starting, ending, and moving our day by talking to the one who sets us on course and gets us prepared for when those fires of life come. Would you pray with me?